What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another patch notes update review. And today we have 10.13 Yokai of Despair. I'm assuming this has to do with the new whale, the new god, Bakasura. Hopefully I said his name right. Apparently 10.12 was season of what was it? Season of Worlds. And so today is going to be Yokai of Despair, or this new update is going to be Yokai of Despair for 10.13. But let's get into the actual patch notes. So I'm going to go over the god, but not like, in-game stuff. So if you do want to see the in-game abilities and stuff, like his synergistic abilities in terms of what he does and what it looks like, just go ahead and go to the Smite game and you'll be able to see it there. I'm just going to go over his abilities and kind of dumb it down for like everyone, because I know some people don't watch the Smite game videos and also just want to just see like the stats and all. And then while looking at the stats, I can explain like the very basic stuff. So he is going to be a guardian. He's going to be similar to a lot of your solo guardians like Cthulhu, even Cerberus, but more like Jormungandr in terms of being like sort of a lane bully, or being primarily in the solo lane. And so Bakasura is going to be there. He's going to be focused on auto attacks, funnily enough. But I do really recommend you guys watch what he does, because I think it's a very interesting and unique kit from a lot of the other gods. I think this is the first time they've added this. He sort of has a ring around him that within this certain ring that he has is an auto attack. So if you're like, regardless of where you are near him, if you're within that circle, you're going to be taking auto attack damage if they auto, of course, within that range. But yeah, he's gonna. I assume he's gonna be a lane bully. He can clear wave with his autos, just being like right in the center of the enemy minions and just autoing. So he's gonna be primarily an auto attack based god. He's gonna be building things, I imagine, like shoguns, berserkers. One thing to note is that they said that the rings on him don't work. So things like I don't think hastened katana is gonna work, even though he basically has a hastened katana in his kit, or hasten ring, sorry, not hastened katana, hasten ring. He basically has it innate into his kit, so that's not like a thing that's going to be too detrimental. And then other things like Telkine's ring aren't going to work either, very similar to if you remember Fafnir getting that item effect not work for him, or they changed that beforehand. But yeah, so I'm imagining berserkers, shoguns. I don't think Cyclopean ring's gonna work on him, but if it does, that'd be nice. I was thinking about maybe Poly might be like a singular item that might be good on him if you use like one of your abilities, then Poly and in an area. I'm also wondering how that's gonna work if you are able to auto multiple things. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe somebody can inform me if there's a god that can can he proc Poly twice on a god, and if he doesn't, does it only work on one god? And then if they're both, let's say there's two enemies within the range of your circle for autos, if Poly only works on one god, then which god will it prioritize? So there's a lot of things I want to try and test out. I'm going to be playing him probably tomorrow on patch notes, unless they don't have that PTS. But yeah, so let's get into the god here. So his passive is very interesting. Enemies that apply hard crowd control to Bakasura are cursed. If an enemy is already cursed, the duration is refreshed and the curse increases in strength. He also converts protections from items and abilities into basic attack damage, and converts attack speed into reduced basic attack movement penalty. So this right here is going to be your haste. Attack speed item and passive do not affect his base. Yeah, so that's also in his passive as well. So basically he's gonna have a 30% protection conversion, so any protections that you get will give him auto attack speed, I believe, right? Yeah, basic attack, basic attack damage, and attack speed. And he's gonna also get reduced basic attack movement penalty. So that's gonna be very interesting. The more attack speed he gets reduced movement penalty, and then also you get attack speed with it. So he's going to be getting reduced movement penalty, which is going to be your hasten effect, and he's also be getting more protections or attack damage from his protections, I believe. So that's gonna be one interest. That's gonna be like his bread and butter in terms of what he builds. As like I said, Shoguns and Berserkers is gonna really synergize with his kit, especially with his passive. So yeah, so just to be completely clear, protections from items and abilities into basic attack damage, and then attack speed into basic attack movement penalty. So it's a very, very synergistic with his items in terms of that. Next up is his Rough Waters. Bakasura imbues himself with Curse Energy. When activated, Baka gains increased basic attack range. So his circle is going to actually increase in size for a little bit. And then he also, his attack range and reduced movement penalty when basic attacking. So he's going to be also having reduced movement penalty, so he's going to have another hastened effect. He also gains a stack of protections for each enemy hit within his basic attacks, which also, when you think about it, like I said earlier, from his passive, when he gains protections from enemies hit, he's also gaining more attack damage. So that's going to be also very synergistic with his kit. And I think from that, they're probably going to nerf him because these stats are really, really good. Movement, basic attack penalty. You're just going to be never able to escape him unless you have a movement ability. So very synergistic. He gets more protections and stuff like that. So just basically a bigger circle of his already passive circle that he gets. And then he's also getting a little bit of haste and just doing more damage because he's going to be getting more protections with his auto. So very good. It's basically just a stim, but it's a very good stim. His 2 is Sonic Wave. Basically, he's going to throw out a very small cone effect. If you know Susanoo, it's similar to his 2 in terms of like the cone effect. It doesn't suck him in. It doesn't suck them in like Susanoo, but the cone and the radius of the cone is very similar to Susanoo. I think it's a little bit bigger though. But he sends out a wave of cursed energy. Enemies are slowed, damaged, and cursed. And so he gets a slow in his kit, which procs Stone of Binding really well. And you'll see with his third ability also stacks Stone of Binding. So I think Stone of Binding is going to be really good on him. They take damage and then are cursed, and then with the curse, I think in the passive, I don't exactly remember what it said. I think increases in strength. They do get cursed here, but we'll have to read this in a second. Enemies that are cursed deal reduced damage for 6 seconds. They reduce their damage, so they're not going to be doing as much damage, and the reduction is up to 10% when fully maxed. If cursed enemy is hit by this ability, the slow is doubled and their curse becomes amplified. Baka's basic attacks reduce this ability's cooldown by 1 second when hitting enemy god and 0.1 when hitting an enemy minion. So whenever, very similar to Rajan, if you're going to use your 2 and then you auto while this is still up, then you will also be getting more reduction in cooldown. So you'll be able to basically spam your 2 a lot, which is going to be another thing that makes him a lane bully. He does have basic damage here, 30% of magical power, very similar to a lot of the other Guardians. Don't have a lot of power scaling, but a lot of base damage reduction, like I said. And then the amplified curse damage reduction if enemies are cursed, or if an enemy is hit by this ability, the slow is doubled. And yeah, so slow for 15 seconds per 2 seconds, so it's going to be very decent on, or very good on Stone Binding and stuff like that. This is a very good, I think it's going to be a slept on item because you're going to be spamming this a lot, but we'll see how that goes. Twisting Dive is going to be his movement ability. Basically gathers his power, dashes straight forward, damaging enemies around him. Enemies hit by the dash take additional damage and are stunned and pushed to ending location. He's immune to knockback while in this ability, so be mindful of that as well. But basically, he uses his 3 and he pushes someone very similar to a Herc 1. So that's also going to be another item that procs Stone of Binding really well and is very good in, it does have a good stun and stuff like that. And then his ult is very basic, but basically he begins to sing for 5 seconds, gaining bonus attack damage, increasing his basic attack range to 20, and distorting a large area around himself with sound waves. Enemies between 20 and 50 units away are gain stacks of dilation every 0.25 seconds. So what that means is basically he's making a giant circle up to 50 units away, and within that small radius of 20 and 50 units on the outer edges of his ult, enemies are going to be getting time dilation, which is very, if you know how All-in-One plays, it's going to be like that. So you're going to be slowing them down within that area. It doesn't affect his inner circle area, so between 0 and 19 units, I'm imagining. It doesn't affect that, but they don't get slowed in that part of the area. But you will have to be taking auto attack damage. So you basically have to choose one or the other. You either go close to his circle within very small radius to just get damaged, or you go on the outskirts of his ult to be slowed down, so you pick your poison basically is what's happening here. And then leaving the time dilation arrow will cause the stacks of time dilation to decay over time. Enemies within 20 units are not time dilated, but instead take increased damage. Yeah, so they do take increased damage. Basic attack damage is increased too, so when you're in that area, it's going to be doing even more damage. So you really do have to pick your poison there, and hopefully you have your escape ability up. Very, very short cooldown, especially once you get to level 20. So we're going to see how that works. I'm assuming this guy's going to get nerfed heavily because his kit is very, very good. I think he's going to be pretty decent in ranked joust as well. He's a lane bully, has a lot of synergistic abilities that pair well with a lot of the other gods, especially in joust. I also think that he does a decent amount of damage. Is one thing a lot of guardians lack, that are have a lot of CC but don't have the damage. With him being able to get close to people and just autoing them within a radius, especially in joust, where it's a 3v3 in one singular lane, you're going to be hitting a bunch of people at the same time. I will say he doesn't have a CC immune ult, so things like or items like Absolution might be very good on him as well, not only for you but for your allies. So certain things I see that are really good on him, I can also see as downfalls. So I think he's just going to be a pretty solid god in joust, but I guess we're gonna have to see about that. In Conquest, I think he's going to be a very easy lane bully, and then late game, I don't know, we'll have to see how that works with CC, because I feel like he is very susceptible to CC, which is probably why they added in that whenever he gets hard crowd control, enemies do get cursed. So I think that is also one thing to take into account as well. I'm excited about this god. I'm going to be playing him on the new PTS, so we'll see how he is there. But from the looks of it, very interesting, unique kit, which I like. And we're going to have to see it, because I think he's going to be OP as shit, at least on release. But generally, in speaking of his kit, I think he's going to be just a solid god in terms of joust once they fix him and shit like that. But let's move on. Very, very cool skins here. This one was a very interesting skin. This Heimdall skin is crazy. Visojo, which is whatever, for me at least. Bug fixes, and then we're going to go into... This should not say joust, I don't believe. I don't think they're doing anything to joust. I might be mistaken here. I did catch this part. So, it's a very, very spicy change. I don't know how I feel about it. It happens to be with Duel. We're going to read this. Duel has been dominated by the same top gods for the majority of its existence. It's time to spice things up, because 32 of the most played and victorious gods are now auto-banned from the mode. And you also get 12 god bans per usual. So you're basically banning half of the roster, close to it. And especially all the gods that are pretty good. So we're excited to see what kind of new meta forms now that the top dogs are out of the picture. This change is intentionally designed to be extreme because it's very temporary, as we're hoping duelists across the battleground are interested in more curated meta shifts in the coming patches. We're also keeping a close eye on the new mechanics, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I don't like this mechanic at all. I think it's a lazy way to... it's a lazy way to fix issues in different game modes that isn't Conquest or Arena, but mainly Conquest, as everything in here, every single balance is always going to be about Conquest, because that's their premier game mode. I think this is super fucking lazy. I think they know the problems in Duel and Joust. I don't play Duel myself, but I can definitely see this happening in Joust, if not already happening in Joust, because I don't think this is 32 gods. Because they said it's time to spice things up, because 32 of the most played and victorious gods are now auto banned from the mode. This is not 32. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So I don't know what the other 10 gods are going to be. Maybe they'll update this and we'll have some in the future, be able to look at this later. I don't know. My issues with this is that although I don't play Duel, I can definitely see this happening in Joust as well. As, you know, instead of fixing, you know, your target bans for each individual game mode, although I know it might be hard to do and cost money, I still think it's a lazy way to fix the issues that are within Duel and, in my opinion, Joust as well. you know, in Duel, you know, God, like all these gods here are very good in Duel. Bakasura being OP on her, Hades, Oi, Bastet, Uller, Mammon, Poseidon, Scotty. Yeah, these are all very, they know the issues within this game mode, and they've known it for a while. But instead of doing those, you know, having a separate department, like I said, I know it's a lot of money and stuff like that. But it's very simple in my opinion, to just nerf some of the small, just nerf some of the small shit to the gods. I mean, they've already done targeted nerfs and buffs based on game modes, you know, in Joust. I know it's like a holistic thing to where it's, non-conquest game mode buffs and nerfs apply to Joust, Duel, Slash, Assault, so every other game mode. But I just don't know, maybe I'm missing something, I don't know, but I think that having targeted nerfs for each game mode is what they should be doing, and I think this is just a lazy way to incorporate that, fixing issues within each game mode. I think, you know, these gods may be OP, but now you literally can't play them at Duel at all. That seems a little, that's extreme. They know it's extreme, and hopefully they don't, you know, go through with this, because if they do this with Joust, that's going to be probably an issue. Although like gods like Achilles and Neja are the most bust gods in Joust, I don't know why they can't just, like, for example, increase cooldowns for Neja or an Achilles, just to make it to where, you know, they're not so OP, like simple shit like that. I don't know why they can't do that. Or I do know why. It's because it's time, money, and simply they just not enough, you know, net rewards for them to do that. Within that, it might be too hard for them, whatever. I don't know what the fucking exact issue is with them doing that, but it's still annoying. And although I do like having, you know, new changes to the map in regards to Duel, Joust, or just new changes in terms of, you know, targeted things for those game modes, if they're gonna do this, I might as well just have them just not even look at this anymore. Because if they're gonna actively make it to where you can't play certain gods within a certain game mode, then I don't see the point. That's just my opinion. I think this is going to be, at the end of the day, I think this is going to be a very contentious topic in terms of Duel. Hopefully they don't do this to Joust, but in Duel, I think people are going to either love it or other people are just going to hate it. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I am curious to hear your guys' opinion if you do have one on this, but that's just mine. Again, you know, you can flame me in the comments all you want. It's fine like that. I just want to hear people's opinion, as I am curious. Moving on to items though. Let's go to Conquest. That's just some small things. Some mid harpy XP reduced. Okay, so they're just gonna make it even less valuable to go to the mid harpies. Those were always these are the camps that I'm just always like, I don't really care about doing them because they're so fucking tanky and they give the least amount of rewards. So that's very cool. Mid harpy base XP reduced from 42 to 38. That's awesome. Reduced magical lifesteal from 10% to 7%. Okay, I'm guessing oh, that's the Crimson Totem. Okay, so they're just nerfing the red one that no one really goes anyways, unless you know you're a magical. I'm assuming this is because of the tank mage. I'm assuming that's what that's for. So I appreciate that at the very least. Moving in, here we go. Very good shit so far. Scrolling down a little bit. Yep. So I'm going to talk about this. The cringe mage build that everyone knows. The issue that they ran into last patch in them nerfing it, which they targeted most of everything that needed to be nerfed. The problem is that they went a little too light on it, which in my opinion, I called it. I literally said that if this is going to be too little, and obviously I was like, or that was my opinion last time. It's going to be a little too soft on the nerfs, and so I thought that in my opinion it wasn't going to do much, but I did voice that I could be wrong, as a lot of the times what I think happens, and it doesn't always map onto what actually happens. But my initial intuition based on what I saw made it to where that it was a little less good. So if we put on a tier from like SS to, you know, C tier, C being dog shit, SS being the most broken thing in the game, it went from SS to like S. So like it was the most broken build in the game, and it went from that to like super broken, still broken, whatever. So like it only went down like one tier, and that tier was still broken basically. So that was the issue, I think. Small things like that. They also didn't address certain things that I think like mage having damage in the beginning of the game, like almost having 100 power based on that item, on these items, were very, very cringe. So I don't think, I think that they're probably not going to fix that, but that would be hard to do, as that also affects mid lane. So it's sort of hard to do. You have to pick your poison in terms of either nerfing items or the class overall and having some diminishing effects for that. So it is very hard. I understand that. But with type and Spain, they're decreasing magical power from 65 to 60, which is fine. It's 5 power. But they're reducing magical power to magical lifesteal conversion rate from 2 times to 1.5 times. This is very good. This is also one thing I think I said that I wanted them to do, because 2 times is actually insane, especially once you add Vamp Shroud and Pythags. Now you're getting Typhon's Fang, so you're basically getting a fuck ton of power. Like if you're getting 40% lifesteal, you're just getting 80 power. That's like ridiculous amount of power, especially when you can be tanky as hell. And then you match it with like Crimson Totem, you're also getting an extra 10%. So that's I'm not entirely sure if that stacks or not, but it's still a lot. You're getting at 40 if you're using the Crimson Totem at the very least. So this is very good. I like this a lot. That means that although you're going to have a lot of lifesteal, the damage that you throw out isn't going to be that much or as much. So you can't have your cake and eat it when you have this lifesteal, which is very, very nice. And that was like one of the biggest issues, is that you could be tanky as hell while having lifesteal and doing a fuck ton of damage. So now, at least with Typhon's Fang, you're still going to have your lifesteal, but you're not going to be able to do as much damage while being tanky, which should be the thing. If you're going to go full tank, you shouldn't be able to do damage as well. And if you're going to be doing full damage, you shouldn't be tanky. So this is good. Vamp Shroud, you're decreasing magical power from 5. Like I said, I thought it was, when they only reduced it by 5 last time, I was like, I don't know if that's enough. I think 10 is optimal, and you know, eventually they made it to where now it's 10. Funnily enough, maybe I should be a part of the, no, I shouldn't be a part of the fucking high res team. That'd be silly. I don't think that'd be a good idea. But I did call it. I think they should have done 10, and they eventually did. Decreased magical lifesteal from 6% to 4%, and then they decreased the passive from 3 to 2 to 8 to 6 in terms of health and mana, which is very nice, because although you're getting lifesteal and stuff like that, you're still just getting health and mana restore. So like you're just getting so much, and so I think this is very good. And then similarly, they reduced magical power by 10, which is nice, and then reduced they reduced health and mana restore from 1.2, restore on from I'm assuming it's passive. I'm thinking that has to do with, like, I'm not entirely sure what that is. Maybe we can actually, you know, let's look this up. So let's go to tier, I don't think it's tier 3, but I think it'll be under lifesteal, magical lifesteal. So Blood Soak Shroud, damaging an enemy with an ability, restores 1.2, can only trigger once per target ability. So I'm assuming that since it's reducing health and mana restore, I'm assuming PSV stands for what? I'm not entirely sure what that stands for. I'm assuming it's passive. Trigger once per target per ability. All right, well, anyways, reducing health and mana restore from 1.2% health and 1.5% to 1% of both. So instead of doing 1.2 and 1.5, now it's going to be 1%. That's still pretty decent. If you're going to be doing that once per target per ability, that's still a decent amount, but reducing that by 0.2 is still good, as it's going to slowly diminish everything else as well. I still think it's going to be a good item, but we'll see how that really affects things. Enchanted Trinket, that's going to be your tier 2, I believe. Yeah, that's your tier 2. You're going to be decreased magical lifesteal from 8% to 6%, and then decreased magical power from 35 to 30, which is nice because you do get a lot of power with your tier 2s. And in fact, I think you basically get most of your power from your tier 2s, as you go up from literally 40 to that. So you're only getting 5 power, which seems like, because Pythag's piece is now decreasing magical lifesteal by 2%. Magical power by 5, so you're getting 5 power, like I said, and then you're decreasing magical power on, I'm not entirely sure what that is. If somebody could let me know. I'm guessing it's on like certain target from 20 to 15. Let's actually just go to that right now. 20, oh, I'm passive on its passive, so it's because you're getting magical power I'm still not entirely sure what the V stands for, but this basically means to where, like, instead of getting 20 power for your teammates around you, you're now going to get, and you actually, you're only going to get 15, so you're not going to be doing having as much power. You're decreasing magical lifesteal from 8% to 6 per second, and that's also its passive as well. So instead of getting 8 plus 8, so 16 for yourself and your teammates, or well, you're getting 8 to your, so basically for yourself, Pythax piece will, instead of getting 16% lifesteal for yourself, you're going to be getting just 12%, so it's 4%, 4% difference. And then adding that with everything else, you're not going to be lifestealing as much. And then now they're nerfing breastplate, even though I don't think that was the biggest issue after they nerfed it. Or at least they initially nerfed. That was the biggest issue initially, but after they nerfed it, I don't think this has been a problem as much. But they're decreasing the physical protections by 5 and then decreasing MP5 from 20 to 15. I still think the item's okay now. I just don't think this was the problem, because now if this meta dies, I don't think Breastplate of Valor is going to be picked up in any other god, in my opinion. And it was seeing a little bit of play still after the nerf from last patch on other gods, but now I think Pridwin, like on your Guardians, your Warriors, are probably going to be better since they nerfed the hell out of Breastplate. Basically back to where it was before, if not a little bit less, because I don't think it had 55. I don't think it had 50 protections. I think it had 55. So we're gonna have to see about this. I think this is gonna kill it a lot more than it would last patch. Hopefully this does kill it, because this meta has been brutal in terms of having fun and, you know, actually being able to have some type of, because this fucking meta has dominated every single game mode from Joust to Conquest. So hopefully there's more variability instead of these stupid cringe mage builds. I'm hoping, because I think this will actually do more of a significant or have more of a significant effect on those gods, and hopefully we'll see Warriors back into the meta in terms of Conquest and Joust. Moving on to buffs here. I'm assuming as a consequence to this cringe mage build meta, they're also buffing Warriors a little bit more than they did last time, which is nice to see. So they're decreasing costs from 2300 to 2250, and increased health by 50. So just very small things. I think this is all throughout the entire thing. So yeah, small things, but I think with them counterbalancing this with Warriors, I think this is going to be, you're going to see a lot more play with this. With Breastplate not being in the meta as much anymore, I think Glad Shield might be might be a good option to go into, as Glad Shield seems to be a little bit more look a little bit more optimal in my opinion. And Pestilence, of course, they're decreasing it by 100 and adding 15 MP5 or HP5, which is very nice. Now they're doing this because I'm assuming because they want to have this item be more valuable against those cringe tank lifesteal builds. So they're basically doubling down on this, which in my opinion is very good. Pestilence obviously does anti-heal, and anti-heal is very good against those lifesteal builds. So this is very good. And also, in consequence, makes Warriors and other tanks a little bit better, because this is now more viable option. We're probably going to see this more often as anti-heal. Archdruid's Fury, this is the closest thing you're going to get to a hybrid item. And they're upgrading this by 5 power each, physical protections and magical protections. I'm glad that they're doing something here. They're trying something here, because last patch they didn't do shit in terms of Warriors, except buff like certain Warriors that are now the only viable options in there, like Cucullin, for example. When they should just be targeting this as a class, because almost every single Warrior is kind of negligible in that lane. So Archdruid's Fury has been a decent item. It hasn't really seen like anything like crazy or bad. It's just been like a solid item into those certain gods, like Achilles is really good with him, really good with this. Bologna, obviously, Vimana, any your attack speed, gods like that. So hopefully we'll get to see this item more often too. Dawnbringer, an item that I think everyone forgets even exists sometimes has added 15 HP5. Had a 15 HP5. So we're gonna see how that is, but I don't think that's gonna be too much of anything, as I don't think Dawnbringer brings all that much to the table. And then Warriors Axe. This is honestly a very, very good buff. Increased physical power from 15 to 20, and it's only 5 power. But if you think about it, 5 power for an item that costs 650, I believe, or is it 600? One of those two. It's a starter item, and you're getting an extra 5 power right off the bat for no extra, just because. This is very, very big. I think this is the biggest damage increase for any type of starter, at least tier 1. So this is going to be very, very, very good in my opinion. I think it's going to bring back Warrior's Axe instead of Bluestone, and at least in Joust. And in Conquest, I think most warriors are going to go Warrior's Axe because of this, as well as its passive changes to Warrior's Axe and the upgraded versions of it from last patch notes. So in terms of Conquest, though, I think Guardians and Mages are still going to go Sands of Time, as I think that the upgraded version is still OP as shit, unless they nerf it here, which I don't think they do. And then, you know, for your warriors, for example, your assassins and maybe like 1 or 2 hunters that can go Warrior's Axe, they're going to go Warrior's Axe instead of Bluestone. And that's in my opinion, as I think the upgraded version of Warrior's Axe, Sundering Axe, is still very good, especially after they buffed it from last patch. So I think Warrior's Axe is going to see a lot more play on those gods, but we'll have to see. That's, I guess, the end of that. Pretty decent warrior buffs, not too many though. I think they said that it's still the end of the season. They don't want to change things too drastically. I don't think all warriors are going to be back in the meta, but I think it's going to make them a little bit more valuable than they were due to the counterbalances with the mage build. I still think that you might see this cringe mage build in the solo lane still, or in Joust, but I still think it's going to be a lot less valuable to pick up, and I think you're going to see a little bit more of the warriors being picked up, and hopefully they address this more into the next season. I'm hoping for actual hybrid items, as since they've done that, since the removal of that, warriors have been just in a weird place in my opinion. So good changes, gonna bring back the warriors a little bit, but I don't think there's gonna be like an influx in my opinion, but we'll just have to see. So moving on to the gods, we have Alpwash receiving a nerf, I'm guessing because of the cringe mage build. Hollow Ground, I think this is his passive. It's been fucking insane in every single game mode. So it's been just him being tanky as hell, doing damage as a cringe mage solo does, or tank, while also having a passive to where you can pick up your bodies and just get fucking, well, I guess it's 5% of your max health, which is ridiculous. So you're getting 15% of your max health just by picking up your bodies. They're decreasing this by 1%, which is nice. So they're also target banning, or target picking those nerfs for these specific gods, which is also nice too. Decrease the cooldown reduction on Undead Surge and Corpse Explosion when picked up a corpse from 2 seconds to 1 second. Let's see, decrease the cooldown reduction on Undead Surge, or when picking up a corpse from 2 seconds to 1 second. So it's gonna be 1 second. It's gonna take 1 second shorter. So I think that might be a counterbalance to this, I believe, because I'm actually not entirely sure what this. Decrease the cooldown reduction on Undead Surge and Corpse Explosion. I'm assuming, I'm dumb. This is for when you reduce your cooldowns when you pick up your body. That's right. I don't know why I thought that. So this is actually bad. This is actually bad for him because, or good in my opinion, because instead of it taking 2 seconds off of that, your other ability is only 1 second. So it's going to be a lot harder to spam out your bodies. And even if you do, you're losing 3%, or 1% of your passive, but 3% in terms of like throwing out 3 bodies basically with your 1 and your 3. At the end of getting a nerf, I think she's been really good in the meta, especially in Conquest and Joust. I think Athena has been a very slept on god in Joust that no one's really been taking advantage of. But yeah, I think she's been very, very good. Global ults are very good, obviously. Decreased HP 5 per level from 0.9 to 0.8. So you're losing basically, 0.1. So you're basically losing 2 health, 2 HP 5. So not the biggest thing in the world, but it is small. Increased cooldown from 18 to 16 to just 18 seconds. So she's just gonna have a flat number, which has been historically this season been a very good go-to change that Hi-Rez has been going to. So I think having a set cooldown is gonna be very good. Ult on her is being increased, which is crazy because it shouldn't have been. I mean, it's 110 seconds, so it's pretty long, but Yeah, she's not gonna have her ult up. She builds cooldown all the time anyways, like Pridwin and stuff like that. So it's not too bad. 10 seconds is a lot in terms of smite, but I think she needed it because being able to spam out your ult as Athena is like very annoying. She just has pressure all the time. Damage mitigation decreased from 30% to 20%, so minus 10. So she's getting a big nerf. I think she's always been your solid go-to Guardian in terms of conquest as your support, and even joust, as I think she's just very good. She's very easy for your team to set up with. So I don't think this doesn't change her too much outside of just being, you know, one of the best Guardians to just being a solid, good support. That has just always been good. Chernobog also getting another nerf. Increased cooldown from 110 to 120. Like I said, global ults are very, very good. So I'm glad he's getting another nerf. He's just been he's like really only been the only best hunter. A lot of the hunters out there is just can't match up to what he does, at least in conquest. And joust, of course, you still have X-Ball and Hachiman, but you know, in terms of conquest, Cherno has just still been your go-to god. Ever since they did the spicy changes, he's just been so fucking OP. But they increased cooldown for 10 seconds, very similar to Athena. Reduced movement speed from 20% to 15%, and then they decreased damage mitigation from 10 to 20 to 5 to 15. So a whole 5% towards the just overall, actually, I think, which is very nice on him in terms of this is a good nerf. So far, a lot of these nerfs have been really good. I think they're doing a little bit more this time than they did last time. As historically, like I said, this season has been very incremental in their changes, not to make anything too, you know, outwardly bad or good. And it's been good for them for most of this season, as it's worked. All they needed was small changes to make things back in order. But with last patch, it seems as though, because they're buffing and nerfing very similar gods and builds here, that they just wanted to go a little bit further because they seem to have failed from the season, or from update 10.12. Not a very good update in my opinion. Mom and Bridget, so she's been very, very stinky in conquest, just being able to do so much damage. Her 2, as it's getting nerfed, doing a lot of damage, surprisingly. Decreased bonus mark damage scaling from 5% to 2.5%, and then removed base damage from mark damage. So that's very good as well. I think she's been one of the best. She is probably one of the best junglers in the game. So yeah, this is definitely needed. But I will say one thing is that Mamon's passive does still need to get tweaked a little bit. I know they did that beforehand, but I do notice her 2 has been a little bit of a trouble recently. But I think it's mainly her passive, honestly. Moving on to Poseidon, though. Poseidon's been in the meta a lot recently, with him being the cringe mage and solo lane, and even mid, because of how much. I honestly don't think he was like all that bad before this update. I think maybe it just exposed how good he was in team fights, because as I was going to say, his 3 ult combo is just the best, and especially since every single conquest game is going late game, his 3 ult combo is just bar none. It can end games and just 2 abilities, which is actually insane. But and not to mention his 2 is disgusting. So this is his passive, decreased bonus ability damage at max tide from 20% to 15%. That's also really good. Hopefully it'll, you know, it's not the most drastic change in the game, but 5% is nothing to scoff at. I think 5% is pretty good, especially when Poseidon does so much fucking damage, just in general. Increased cooldown from 16 to 12 to 15 at all ranks, which is very good. Similar to what I said earlier, just making the cooldowns a little bit longer is going to make, you know, certain things not feel as oppressive. And then they decrease base damage from 30 to 70 to 20 to 60. So 10 flat, which is pretty good in my opinion. I think his 2 was very underrated too. I've been looking at like stats whenever I play against a Poseidon and always see like his trident do like 600-700 damage. I'm just like, how does this thing do so much damage? So this is definitely warranted. Another Rajan nerf. In my opinion, I think Rajan, even though he still gets banned a lot and he is still pretty good, I think the nerfs really did do a lot to him. I don't think he's as valued as he obviously once was, but just in general, I think he's just a solid mage and that's all. So I'm honestly fine with where Rajan is, especially since they're killing this buff, or this mage, cringe mage build. I think he's already in a fine place. It was just the build, really. But I'm never opposed to a Rajan nerf. Hopefully it doesn't go back to being the worst mage in the game, but we'll see. They decreased base damage from 35 to 95 to 30 to 90, so just 5 power. Keep in mind that power is going to be a lot that you're going to want to, you know, a lot. Power on mages is a lot because they do use their scaling that make this damage a lot more. So 5, although 5 power isn't a lot, always keep in mind that power is going to be less important on mages than it would be on like guardians and shit like that because of their power scaling. But not too bad, not too bad. Rat, I can't tell you how many times I've just like getting one shot by Rat, crit Rat with like his one, because his one can crit with his acorn. He literally just one does like 700, 800 damage, and then 3s, and then autos me with a Hydra's proc for like 500. So he basically one shots you. In my opinion, Rat, it wasn't always that. He was kind of like a gimmicky type god, in my opinion. So it's actually not really that bad to see him in the jungle as part of the new meta. But I do think he maybe needs a little bit of a tune-up. So they're decreasing his Acorn Blast. This does so much damage. Decreased damage from 70 to 170 plus 60% of physical power to 70 to 150. Okay, so early game, it's still going to be decently, but it's going to scale. Yeah, as it scales, it's going to go all the way up to 20 power plus 5% less of physical power scaling. So that is pretty significant. Not the worst. I think Rat's still going to be on the top, but I do think he needed a little bit of a tune-up. Okay, so these are all the nerfs. Not bad, not bad. Most of the things that they see, I'm assuming they see up the statistics in Conquest. That's what they base everything off of course. Are definitely not bad picks and items so far. Definitely could see a little bit more of the warriors and stuff like that being tuned in some of the items, but I think because of how close it is to Worlds, and they're not going to want to do that maybe until next season, hopefully. Oh, I skipped way past all this. Okay. And of course, fucking Achilles getting another fucking buff. As a Joust main, this fucking sucks to see because he just keeps getting buffs. He's like the 5th buff in a row, and I'm not opposed to it in Conquest, as Achilles does not do that much, but this is the 5th or 6th fucking buff in a row. Buff some other warriors, for fucking Christ's sake. Because now Achilles is even better in Joust, so still the fucking ban. That's why I still think they should do targeted bans. Targeted buffs and nerfs for each game mode, and any ranked game mode like ranked Joust and ranked Duel, they should have it to where it specifically applies to those game modes. And seeing as Duel is a ranked game mode and not like a casual game mode, that shouldn't be too hard. Now the only difficult thing would be regular Joust, but like that's it. You don't need to do anything for Assault, you don't even do anything for Slash, and I think that's all the game modes, right? Oh, Arena, you don't really need to do all of that. It's just whatever. So Achilles is 2, Radiant Glory changed max target on heal from 3-3-3-3-4 to 4 at all ranks, which is fine. Just small things, but in Joust, that's going to be a lot. Max targets, yeah. Combat dodge decreased cooldown from 14 to 10 to 12 to 10, so he's going to get on even better early game, which is why they do this, because Achilles is not that great of a lane clear early game. So having this on cooldown is going to make it to where your fight in the early game is a lot better, as well as your clear. Not significant changes, but when you count all of them together, this is a huge change for Achilles. I think he's going to be pretty good in Conquest and with all these changes. And then he's going to be obviously your top man in Joust, as he always is. Bologna definitely needed a fucking buff. So Scourge increased heal on the 3rd hit of a Scourge from 16 to 32 to 20 to 36, which is fine. It's fine. It's not too... That's a bit of a... I don't know how much the heal really counts until late game, which I guess it does. Late game does matter. Scourge healing does matter. So I think it's a fine one. Eagle's Rally increased damage from 140 to 500 to 150 to 550. That's pretty good. Increasing the base damage to that is pretty good. I think Bologna is in that space where Amaterasu is just better. So why would you ever pick Bologna? So I think either nerfing Amaterasu, which I don't think they should really do because of what the state of Warriors are in right now. So I do think buffing Bologna, I think they should go a little bit harder with Bologna because she's like kind of bad at all states in the game for the most part, generally speaking. But that's just Warriors in general. So I guess we'll have to see how much this impacts. I don't think it's impact that much, but I still think she needs a buff. Tyr, oh baby, increasing physical power on, this is his Not his 3. I don't play tier enough. This is either his 1 or 2. I think this is his 2. This is the one where you get pulled or pushed. Sorry, you get pushed and then you get comboed knock up with his. I think this is his 1, right? I think this is his 1. Increased physical power scaling on assault stance from 50% to 55%. Decreased cooldown on both stances from 15 seconds to 15 to 13 seconds. Oh, baby, getting the tier cooldown. I mean, you build cooldown on tier anyways, so we're gonna have to see how that does. Putting more damage on tier is very scary. He does so much damage anyways, so we'll see. I'm pretty sure this is his 1. So we'll have to see about this. Warriors are getting buffed though, so this is good. This is the third warrior in a row. So this is what they should have done last patch. Yeah, these are good changes in my opinion so far. All right, Mulan training arc. That's her passive. Decreased requirement for second rank of sword and spear from 2,000 to 1,500. Decreased requirement for the 5,000 to 4. Oh, baby, this is actually insane. If you don't know anything about Mulan, her passive, once you get more damage on your passive, it's the more your 1 and your 2 and your 3 actually increase in terms of what they can do. I think you get a second proc on your 2, you get another proc on your 1, and then your 3 you can attach to walls, and I think it's a little bit longer if I'm not mistaken. I'm not entirely sure. But having the passive to where it takes quicker to get online, even though Mulan is a lane bully and can do what the hell she wants early game. Her early game is probably one of the best in terms of like solo lane and outside of maybe Horus, for example. They do so much damage early game. So I mean, early game Mulan, man, that's scary. And now they're doing this. We'll have to see, because Mulan was always scary early game. And she does so much fucking damage. And now you're upgrading it to where you're making it easier to where she can get online sooner. Okay, we're gonna have to see. I don't know if Mulan really needed that, but I think that's fine, because Warriors are in a bad spot, of course. But Gilgamesh, always love seeing buffs on him, at least recently, because if you don't know about the Gilgamesh before, when he was first came into Smite, he had like 12 nerfs and eventually just became irrelevant. Now where he's like okay, he's like in an okay spot right now. But since Warriors are bad, he's not really. But Sunforged Scimitar. This is his 1, increased damage to lane minions from 25% to 40. Oh my fucking god, oh 15%, that's huge. They're definitely trying fucking, because he was a jungler at one point. He's a pretty damn good jungler too. So they're just trying to make it to where he doesn't stay in the jungle, which is kind of weird. I feel like each god has their own niche, and if you're just trying to make it to where they're just one general build path you want them to go into, I don't know how much I like that, but that's definitely what they're trying to do, because his lane clear wasn't all that great, so he wasn't the greatest in solo lane. But that's 15%, so damn. Reduce HP 5 from 20 to 40 to 10 to 30. Okay, that's a little bit of a nerf, right? Okay, change HP 5 to be active at all times. Oh, so you're just getting HP 5 with his 1. Oh, and it upgrades. I'm guessing this upgrades when you upgrade it. That's actually kind of crazy. Yeah, they're really trying to make this guy work in the solo lane, man. I feel like if you have to try that hard to make him in the solo lane, maybe you should just change the class. Because Jesus Christ, his kit is like a fucking jungler. I think they're trying really hard to do this, and it's sort of working, but like, Jesus, you should have just made him a jungler. Definitely warranted buffs though for all the Gilgamesh mains out there. Loki, don't think we need to see him here. In the buff section, no thank you. Increased base damage from 30 to 90 to 35 to 95. It's not that much, but again, remember with mages as well as assassins, they rely much on their scaling. So 5 power is still technically not a lot, but is a little bit more than what it says on paper. Not the worst. I don't really want to see Loki buffs. That's just because I hate Loki in general. He's such a cheese god in my opinion, but I mean, I think he's in a good place. I don't know why they just wanted to fucking do this. Whatever. This is a little weird, but I guess it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. Ravana, definitely, after those mitigation shit, hasn't really seen much play. So I'm not opposed to this, but maybe, let's see. Maybe they want to make him more of a jungler than a solo laner, please. So this is his one. Increase scaling from 90 to 95 of your physical power. Okay. Increase scaling from 100 to 110 of your physical power. So like I said earlier, it's the scaling that matters on your assassins and your mages. So primarily, you do want to focus the scaling rather than like the base damage. So I think that as with them nerfing like his base damage and now upping his scaling, maybe we'll see him more in the jungle as he should be, or they should just fucking change him to a goddamn warrior. But not, you know, this is actually kind of warranted. I think the way they're buffing, of course. Sylvanas. So this is his one, right? Or is this his? I don't play him enough. This isn't his grab, right? This is his one. Yeah, it's a stun. So this has to be his one. Or is it a stun or a root? I think this is... Okay, let's see. Changing CC to no longer be diminishing returns is something will... Nature's Grasp was a good candidate for it since roots were changed to interact more consistently but diminishing returns. So it's a struggle. Okay, so this is just his one, I believe. Stun now no longer is reduced by diminishing returns. I get what they're doing with him because I think what they're trying to do is if you stun with your one, it doesn't set up really well with your three if they have DR. So I guess this is fine. But I hate going up against, yeah, you know, it is good. I hate going up against Sylvanas, but Sylvanas isn't a very good god right now. He's probably like your below average type god in general in terms of like your support or whatever. And even in joust. So not the greatest. So I'm okay with this. We're buffing Geb. I don't like to see that for your jousters because that's more fucking... In Joust, Geb likes to turtle and he does so much damage and his 3 and his ult and his 2, it's just a lot of shit that for his teammates. He's really good. But let's see, Shockwave, that's his 2. Increased damage at max range of his ability from 70% of initial damage to 80. Oh, God. All right, so initial damage at 80 is going to be a lot. That's not going to be fun at all because his 2 does a surprisingly decent amount of damage. And the longer it is out range of his 2, the less damage it does. So we're doing even more damage, similar to Vulcan, just 10% more. So, and then decreasing his 3 from 18 to 17. Okay, so if you have 40%, right? If you take 50% of 17, which is what, like 8.5, and then you do 40, I guess, what? That's 3.4, 6.8 seconds. So I guess it'll be like on a 10-second cooldown, I think, somewhere around there, maybe 11. I guess, I suppose. Honestly, though, Geb is fine. I think he needed a little bit of a tune-up because he doesn't really doesn't do like what the other Guardians do. For example, like Ganesh, Charon. I can't think of any others. Bacchus, even though Bacchus was seen as a kind of a cringe, not good Guardian back in the day, but it's actually pretty good now. So I think Geb maybe deserved this a little bit. We'll see. Apollo doesn't see any play, even in Conquest, although Apollo is so annoying with him split pushing, as well as just being able to get over to team fights in like 1 second. So always scared to see the people with global ults getting a buff, as you can see what we're going through now with Cherno and Athena. This is his one, increased physical power scaling from 85 to 90, so 5%, and then his ult decreased mana cost again from 40 mana to 40 plus, 40 to 60, to 20 to, oh geez, that's a lot. So he's cutting it in half. So I think it's just 20 mana at the start, and then you're losing 5 mana, or you're making it to where it's only 55. So 5 mana difference. That's going to make his ult and his ability to split push a lot easier because now you don't really need to buy those mana heavy items like trans, for example, to make his ult work. So, okay, we're going to see a lot of global ults here, although they're nerfing Cherno and Athena, so hopefully that'll have some impact on Apollo as well, and making him not as crazy. Medusa, how much do we have left actually? Oh, we're basically done. All right. Medusa has seen like no play even in Joust. Even though I think Medusa is a pretty solid mage, I think she just doesn't really do that much. I think there's a bunch of other hunters that do what she does a lot better. And surprisingly, her team comp her team ability or synergy is not all that great considering how good her ult can be. Let's see, Viper shot, increased base damage per shot from 15 to 35 to 20 to 20, so 5 damage. And then they decreased the mana cost. Although I don't think that was really the problem. But I do like the damage increase, even though she's been getting buffs, like not relatively recently, but the buffs that she's gotten in the past has been about her damage, I believe. So even more damage on Medusa, so she's just gonna be able to one-shot people. We'll see. Acid spray decreased mana cost from 60 to 80 to 40 to 60. So it's basically just trying to get that early game to be a little bit better. I can see a little bit, and then also carry out through the late game. As you can see, it still scales roughly the same by 20. I think Medusa, yeah, Medusa definitely needed more buffs here, because I think she definitely is not in a good place in terms of like the other hunters. Like I could name like half of the hunter list that I would say is better in Conquest. Now in Joust, I think this is going to make her a lot more interesting of a pick, in my opinion. Chronos. Okay, let's see. Increased base attack speed from 1 to 1.05. Okay, so not much, but it's a small thing. I'm assuming they want him to be more of a ADC than he actually is. Although I think he's just a better... just pure damage mage, but that's just my opinion. Accelerate, his 2, making, you know... I think this is his 2, right? I believe this is his 2. Decrease cooldown from 15 seconds to 14 seconds. They're really trying to make him go faster along with attack speed, so that makes sense with this as well. Just small things. I think Chronos is in a subpar space. He's still very good at like higher levels, but yeah, I don't think attack speed is a way to help him, in my opinion. Zeus hasn't been in the meta in a while, and this is your last pick here, or last god. Lightning Storm, just one thing. Increased base damage from 100 to 220 to 100 to 280. Oh, Jesus, making his late game that much better. That's a lot of damage for a mage. 60 damage at full rank, that's gonna be so much damage with the scaling. That's actually a crazy amount of power. Holy shit, you're actually gonna be able to one-shot with just like one tick of this with your 3 combo at late game. Oh my lord. I don't think it's gonna bring him in the meta, but this is gonna make him a lot more scarier whenever you see him late game. You'd be like, oh, Zeus just ulted, I'm dead. Definitely think Zeus needs a little bit of buffs, and I think this is actually good. Zeus is just not there in terms of any of the other mages, especially seeing as he can't go the cringe mage build like everyone else was. So hopefully this will bring him in the meta a little bit. I don't like playing against Zeus. I think he's cheese as well, but he's kind of bad, so I'm okay with this buff. That's a lot. That's crazy amounts of damage, especially with the scaling. Okay, so that is it for the buffs, or the patch notes. So my overall opinion, I think this is really good. Everything that's going on in terms of, you know, buffing your warriors along with nerfing this fucking build that's just omnipresent at this point. I think this is going to actually do some things. I think they should have done this last patch. But I'm finally glad that they're doing that in this patch, and actually finally doing some more like not soft shit, but some more like in core shit. Like they're actually doing things rather than just like taking 5 power off and seeing if that works, because obviously it didn't, and I suspected it wasn't going to. A little bit of buffs to your tanks with this as well. I think it's going to make them a lot better. Not to the point where they're like OP or even take over the lane, because I still think they need a little bit more than that. But that's definitely a good step in my opinion. We'll have to see about that. Definitely the gods that they've picked for the buffs and the nerfs, I agree with, even though, like, for example, Achilles I don't think is a good buff for Joust, but a great buff for Conquest, for example. Although I still think this man has gotten like 5 buffs in a row. I think it's time to chill out. But a lot of warriors here to buff as well, and then, you know, some sprinkled in gods in here that don't do all that well in Conquest, I think is good. So overall, I think it's a good patch. We're gonna have to see how much this impacts the meta. I think it's going to impact it a lot more than others, and of course Bakasura is going to be a very interesting god. I think he's going to be very, very good right off the bat. But overall, I think after like all the buffs and nerfs to him, he sort of settles. I think he's just going to be a pretty solid god in all game modes. But we shall have to see. I'm going to play him tomorrow, or whenever they open up PTS, so I should have a video out with him soon. But yeah, that's basically all I have for you. If you have any suggestions, feedback, if you want to roast me in the comments, you're always welcome to do so. But yeah, I think that's all I have for you. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching.